G'day everybody, welcome back to another, I'd say a little chinwag, but a little, as you can tell by the title, it's not a real chinwag. It's my condolences and my respect to a very good friend of mine called Bill, aka William. I hope you guys can hear me. By the way, it's very windy today. You just saw the wind surfers out there. That's very rare around here, really. I'd love to give you a bit more view of the beach while I'm talking, but I think the wind will go in the microphone, so it's best the wind is coming in my face. So you'll just have to put up with the old fence and the old tree here. There's Elvis. He's enjoying chewing on a little, Elvis is enjoying chewing on a little stick there. Anyways, folks, as you can tell by the title, R.I.P. Bill. Very sad moment for me. Long story short, a good friend of mine, I would say, passed away in December, and something I wasn't quite aware of. I wasn't aware of his death until about a month after it happened, which I was very sad about. But with this chat, there is a very positive outcome to it. I'll come on to that. So it's to pay my respect and condolences to Bill, but also to put this a positive spin on it also as well, you know. So Bill and I, we met in Portugal. A little travel story to begin with of how we met. I was traveling in Portugal solo on my own, and I was in a little town called Sagres, which is a very small little town with a big lighthouse and some beautiful coastline, some lovely big cliffs and things like that. Very dramatic. So I was there for just one evening, and I took myself to a random pub for the evening to have a couple of beers, as I was doing at the time. In the evenings I'd take myself for a little beer and quite often meet people and have a chat. Well, on this evening, Bill entered the pub, and at the time he was 77 years of age, because I remember that because I posted a status on Facebook about meeting Bill when I met him, funnily enough, and I put that he was 77 years old, which is a big number for me actually, which is very strange also. Anyways, we chatted for an hour or two, you know. We had a good chat for an hour or two about, we were very similar. He was very similar to me when he was younger, at my age. He was traveling a lot, he was all over the world. He was a law teacher. He was teaching law in all schools all over the world, basically. So that's how he was traveling. He was teaching in law schools all over the place. I'm going to read something out to you in a bit, so he kind of tells you what countries he was in and stuff like that. But all over the world, very colourful life, very, very fruitful life. He enjoyed it to the maximum, you know. And that was in 2017 when I met him in Portugal. So we kept in touch via Facebook. So Facebook is good for some things. We kept in touch on there. That was his preferred platform. So we chatted fairly regularly. We kept up to date. He absolutely loved watching my travel videos because it just reminded him of him of himself when he was younger, you know. He just couldn't stop saying that, of how similar we were at this age I'm at, and he hopes that I continue doing what I'm doing and all of this. Anyways, in just last year, my girlfriend and I, we went over to Portugal once again for a road trip, and Bill was still there. So I got in touch with him as I would, and long story short, we met up. We all met up for some dinner in the evenings, and to be fair, Bill's health wasn't great. His legs were giving in, he was on sticks, he was on crutches, and he was struggling, to be fair, you know, and also had other kind of ailments and illnesses going on. I think he was the kind of guy that was so positive. He was so positive. Even when he had problems, he was just upbeat about it, you know, like absolutely one of a million. He really was. I'm just so happy to have met him, you know. So anyway, we met him, had a great time. He paid for everything. He totally insisted to treat my girlfriend and I, I was so happy that he got to meet, and he was very happy that he got to meet her also, after seeing her in videos and hearing a lot about her and stuff like that. Anyways, just last year in November, we had a phone call on WhatsApp, and he told me that he'd had something going on with his health and he was going for some checks. I won't go into details on this video obviously, but he had something going on and he was going in for checks, and he says, don't worry, I'll keep you updated, and I'll in a week or so I'll keep you updated, I'll let you know when I know what's going on. And basically he had plans to go to live in Istanbul where he'd lived before, and he really invited me over there to go and stay with him for as long as I wanted. He said, free of charge, come and stay with me as long as you want. And that's the kind of guy he was, you know, that's the kind of guy he was. So anyway, that was definitely going to be a plan. That was definitely going to be a plan. Where was I? Yeah, so anyway, a couple of weeks went by and I hadn't heard off Bill, so I sent him a message and asked him how he got on, and to which I had no reply. Sorry, there's a hair on the thing. So he was a bit absent, you know, which wasn't unlike Bill, to be honest. He often would go a couple of weeks or something without replying, so I gave it a little while, but I did notice it hadn't been read, you know. I noticed the message hadn't even been opened. Quite often he'd open a message but he wouldn't reply for maybe a couple of weeks. That's just how he was. But he hadn't even opened the message, so I was a bit worried about that, you know. So I sent another message asking how things went again, similar message, to which I had no reply. So I called him and there was no answer on his phone. So obviously I was quite concerned, and one thing I hadn't done was check his Facebook wall or anything like that, because he wasn't one to post really. Anyway, it was hardly ever posted on Facebook. He just used it for Messenger, you know, to message people and to see what other people are doing, basically to keep up with people's lives, because he was unable to move about a lot. Anyway, I scrolled down his wall, and another thing I forgot to point out, he wasn't very close to much of his family. They kind of fell out with him because of the lifestyle he led, which is a bit sad. They thought he was a little bit selfish for the life he lived and all of this, you know. So anyway, there was not much on his wall, but there was one message, and it was a friend of his, obviously, who was paying his condolences and says he's very sorry to see him go, and he was a great man and this, that and the other, R.I.P. Bill. So obviously that in that moment I knew he'd gone, you know, which was so sad for me, because I was hoping to see him again and at least speak to him, you know. So it was a good month or month and a half after I'd spoken to him that he told me he was going to let me know that I found out. So I don't know his reasons for not telling me. I don't know whether it was quite sudden or not. What I have done is I've messaged his friend to ask his friend if he knows what happened and all of that. So let's see what happens there. But let me just read out. I went on to Will's, like I said, Bill or William. I went onto his wall, and I did scroll down a fair bit to see what he'd been posting, because I was just thinking about him, and I did shed a tear, folks, I'm not gonna lie, and I need to try and read this out without doing that right now, to be honest with you. So anyway, this is what he wrote back in 2022. I've been traveling alone now for about 20 years, and so far have lived in Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, Argentina, Turkey, and now Portugal. In Lisbon now, where I've lived since July 2012. Up to now, my longest visits have been 9 years living and working in Portugal, my 3-year stay in Brazil, and more recently, before moving to Portugal, my 5-year life in Turkey, where I lived and taught as a full-time professor at Istanbul's Yeditepe Law School. Here in Portugal, I have taught for 5 years at each of Portugal's 3 best law schools. Being a stranger in a strange land is sometimes awkward, sometimes very lonely, but better than living a life of compromise permanently attached to a house or city. I know where I will be this month, but I do not know if I will still be in Lisbon 6 months from now. Much freedom, lots of anxiety, but I have no regrets about how I've lived my life the last 20 years. Bill. Now that was the last thing he'd written on Facebook, you know, and that just means so much to me, because that's how I feel, and that's why he kept telling me that, you know, you remind me of him so much, or I remind him of me, or whatever it is. Sorry, I can't think straight right now. So yeah, I just feel like the way I'm living my life right now, I'm just going to continue to do what I want, how I want, you know, because he had no regrets living his how he has, and he's lived the best life that he could possibly have lived, and he's admitted that. He's had regrets, yes. He's had to compromise, yes. He says it all in that, you know. But like, you have to compromise in life to get what you want and do what you want, you know. And I'm compromising things right now where I am, where I'm living right now. I'm trying life without my family and friends, and it's proven to be quite hard, you know. And when I found that out, I was here, so I was away from my family and friends, and I had my girlfriend here to support me, which she was very supportive, and she's met him, so she understood the kind of guy he was. So anyway, I just wanted to say rest in peace, Bill, and also to you folks, on a positive note, go out and do what you want to do if you can, live the life you can, because you're here once on this planet, as we understand. I believe I'll see Bill again, so Bill, I'll see you again in the next one. But folks, do what you can when you can, because you have to, you know. Bill actually told me he had many other plans. He wanted to do this, he wanted to do that. He still had a bucket list, you know. And I think he was almost hinting for me to go with him to many of these places, to do them with him, you know. So yeah, really hit home, folks. Oh, you just have to seize the opportunity, man. You just have to do what you can when you can, especially as you're getting older, and I'm getting older. Okay folks, I'm gonna leave it there. There's Elvis chilling. He's had a good swim in the sea. We've both had a good swim in the sea. Anyway, until the next one, folks, stay positive, stay chirpy, live life, take every moment as you can. Peace.